to Marie's Scrappy Creations, where we sew the scraps of your life into beautiful creations. Today we're almost done with our Freestyle Scrappy tote bag video series. So we had two things left, or decision. Is it a zipper top? Or does it have Velcro, magnetic, or maybe no clasp? Because I definitely do that a lot with my tote bags. Today we're going to go over the clasp. We're going to be going over everything that you have to do to get your bag looking like this. Now we're going to have one more video in this series, and that will go over the zipper top. I had planned originally to do it in one video, but the time, I just really didn't feel like people would stick around for a really long video. So I broke this one up into two. We'll finish it up in our next video. So if you are doing a zipper top on your bag, this probably isn't the video you're looking for, and I apologize. But if you're using a magnetic clasp, or maybe Velcro, or maybe no closure whatsoever, this is the video for you. This is going to show you how to finish your Freestyle Scrappy tote bag. And I just have to stop and say, how stinking cute is this bag, right? I love the scrappiness. I love all the quilting lines that I can feel and that I can see. And I just think this Lorelei Harris fabric that I was gifted is just too cute. I was gifted the fabric, the centerpiece fabric from a subscriber, and I was gifted the black fabric with the white flowers from Kimberly, whose shop is called My Fabric Addiction 1 over on Etsy. Her link will be below. And the center, the lining, was gifted to me by another subscriber. I'm having a great time with this series. I'm having a great time because I can feel your excitement. For so many of you, this is the first time you've done a tote bag. And even if it isn't, you're still having fun, and that's what it's all about. So we're going to go get started, and I'm just excited for you. I can't wait to see all the pictures on Facebook of everyone's finished Freestyle Scrappy tote bag. There's so many more ways to do it, even from what I show. I'm just giving you a few little ideas here and there. And I have one at the end that you may like. I hope you do, because I'm going to use this little method, I guess, for my Tulip Pink scrap bag. And I'll be showing you that in the next video. Okay, let's go get started. Grab your scraps, grab your panels. Let's go. Okay, first things first, I am working on this bag and the straps. I thought about going scrappy and using some of these fabrics, which I could have done and made a scrappy strap, but then I ended up deciding on the black with the white flowers. So we're going to deal with that quickly. I'm going to go through this quickly only because I have shown this in every other bag tutorial I've ever done. Now, you don't have to make your own. You could get some webbing of whatever width and make your bag handles out of that, and that's perfectly acceptable. If you're making your own, you can piece them, or you can use yardage like what I did on this one. Although I do like piecing it, and I've done that on my previous bags. This is 4 inches wide, and it's 37 inches long at the moment, but I will trim it to 36. And then, as you'll see, I don't use all 36 inches of it. I tuck a good 3/4 of an inch on each end down inside. But you cut your your straps whatever length you'd like them to be. But for this, it's 4 inches by 37. What I have here is a piece of what is it? I go to say it, the Pellon 973. And I have a piece of cotton batting. And these are cut just under 1 inch wide. And what I'm going to do is, I folded it this way first and made a crease with my iron. Then I folded both of these into that center and creased it so that it's like this. And you've seen me do this before. You've probably seen this and done this a lot, so you're familiar with it. If you're new, it's very simple. It's just that easy. You just fold it in half and then fold it towards your crease. Just don't touch your crease. You want to leave a little bit of a space there. Okay, now this is a fusible, so I'm going to place it like this carefully along there. If there's anything that needs fixing, I'll fix it at the iron. But I'll tuck it like this and make sure it's just where it should be. And I'm going to press it. And I'm going to do that on both of these. And I'll be right back. All right, so this is all attached right there. Okay, going down. Now, I should say, normally I use either 1 or 2 pieces of cotton batting, but because I had just some narrow pieces of the Pellon 973, I decided to use that up. I do like when the strap has a little bit more bulk to it. Well, not bulk, I guess, but softness, squishiness. It makes it feel a whole lot nicer in your hand. And I always try to make the strap longer than what I know I'm going to need, and then I can trim it off afterwards. So I'm just going to place that cotton batting underneath that other piece, and I'm going to pin this along here. Then I'm going to do the exact same thing to this. Okay, I'll do that, and then we'll go from there. Right, I have sewn 1/8 of an inch away from the edge on each side, and then I took a decorative stitch called a serpentine stitch down through. Let me see if I can show you what that looks like. You could use a straight stitch. You could put 2 more straight lines. You can do whatever you want. It's your freestyle bag, right? Now, I also, off camera, trimmed these to 36 inches. So these are all set for the length that I want on my tote bag. Like I said, I used quite a bit on each end down inside the tote bag, and I'm going to show you that when I get to that point. I am going to speed up the next part of this. I'll show you what I'm going to do, but again, I've gone over this in other tote bags, so I'm not going to do it step by step. I'll just let you know what I'm going to do. I'm going to put right sides of the lining together, right sides of the front and back panels together, and I'm going to leave an opening on my lining. Now, this is for a metallic or a magnetic clasp closure. If you're using a zipper top, you don't do it this way. That will be in the next part. This is only if you're leaving it open with no closure, which I've done many times, or if you have Velcro there or a magnetic clasp, you're going to do it the way I'm doing it now. But again, if you're doing a zipper top, you don't do that the way I'm going to here. All right, let's do this. All right, now I have both of these sewn and I left my opening here in the side. Okay, so one of these has to be inside out and the other, let me see, inside out, right side out. And it really doesn't matter which one. But before we go any further, we need to take care of putting the straps on. We need to place these. I'm going to do it the way I know probably not a lot of people do what I do, but I'm going to show you. And I know I mark it twice, but it's what I do. I can lay this flat here. Whereas if I flip this right side out, I'm going to have to fold this over. So I should have about 13 and a half, somewhere in there. Let's see where I know I have 13 and a half. It's easier to see on this one. All right. So let me mark 13 and a half. Half of that would be 6 3/4. No one's going to see that mark. I'm going to mark that there. And I'm going to mark it over here. 6 3/4. If I had a pen that would write. There. Okay. Now, depending on where you want your straps on this bag, you can put them most generally any amount, placement, distance apart. Sorry, can't seem to choose my words. All right, but I want them for this bag opening probably about 5 inches in between where the straps go, okay? So I'm going to lay this so that, let me see, would 5 inches between, let's take a look. You can always move them around. If that were 5 inches, that's actually going to be too narrow. No, I don't want 5 inches. I want more than that. See? All right, let's go with 6 inches in between. Would mean that would go there. Okay? But I want to bring that strap up about 3/4 of an inch because I'm going to sew over that in more than one place. Okay? Get a good hold. Now making sure not to twist it. Keep everything straight. Okay? So that's 3 inches, actually the width of this. So I'm going to come over here 3 inches and place that. Come up 3/4 of an inch. Boy, that was pretty spot on. I'm going to do the same thing on this side as I just did here. Then I'm going to take this over to the sewing machine and I'm going to use some long basting stitches, and very close to this edge I'm going to baste all 4 handles, and I'll meet you right back here. Okay, I have these sewn and I want to show you something that's not really a trick, but it's something that I use quite often to avoid issues. A lot of times these will move, like when you get your lining put in here, these can shift and they won't be straight, okay? So take a moment to put your bag right side out. And lay your straps down like this, okay? So that you can see if they're wonky or straight, okay? Now come down a little ways and pin that. You can't pin up here because you're going to be sewing, okay? But just put a pin in here to help hold that strap straight, because it will make a difference. I have torn tote bags apart for lesser issues because I can't stand it if the straps aren't straight, and that's one thing that will really bug me. Okay. And it doesn't take long to do this. It's just one of those little things that helps everything look a little nicer. It's thick, but you can push that through there. I know you can. And as long as it's semi-straight, it doesn't have to be perfect. You'll come back and get it, but believe me, you're going to be happy that you did this. If you've ever had one that turned out a little wonky, you know what I mean. Okay. And as I said, it doesn't matter which one is right side out and inside out. So while we have it like this, let's tuck this down inside our lining, okay? The only thing you need to figure out is if you want your openings, if you want a certain pocket on a certain side, you're going to have to decide that now. But for me, because either side can be the front, it really doesn't matter. Okay, I'm going to match up my edges and pin them. Then I'll come back around and I'll straighten the handles first and kind of pin where that is. Like this. Make sure that everything at the top, all your pieces are lining up where they should be. And maybe I pin more than most people, but I really don't want anything to come apart, and I don't want anything to not be straight. So I tend to pin a lot to keep things where they need to be. So work your way around here, just like this, around the whole thing. After I pin this, I'm going to take it over to the sewing machine and I'm going to come down about 3/8 of an inch. You want a good seam allowance here, and you're going to sew around. And if you do it like I do, you're going to go around twice. That's just what I do, just to make sure that everything stays where it should. I always sew around twice, and I use a 2.5 millimeter stitch length. You certainly could go smaller, totally up to you. It's your bag. So I'll finish pinning and I'm going to sew this, and you know the drill. I'll meet you right back here. Right, so I've sewn around there twice. The next thing we need to do is box our corners. Now we could have done that first. We can do it second. You can do it, as long as you do it before you flip your bag right side out, you're good to go. Okay, I like to get the handles, the straps, sewn down in place. So, depending on the width of your bag, you're going to have to decide how big you want your gussets, if you want your bag squared off. Now, this isn't a large bag. I think I will go 1 3/4 inches. Now, you need to measure it from here. If you've used a 1/4 inch, okay, and you know that that's straight the whole way, you're good, okay? That's what seam allowances can be very important, as we know. So whichever I decide, if I go 1 3/4 inches, you have to double that, okay? So that would make it double. Whatever I choose here, it's going to be double wide, okay? 1 3/4. And it doesn't matter if you mark this with a pen or something that's heat erasable, because no one's going to see it. We're going to cut these out, and we're going to be sewing over the seam, okay? So 1 3/4 inches all the way around. This one's a little trickier for me to see. Look at all that black thread I've got. And then something else you might want to do is, let me show you this. We'll cut one. Make sure if you have a pocket here, that it's out of your way. You don't want to cut your pocket. So, in the camera. When I sewed around here, I used a 1.8 millimeter stitch length, so it's nice and tight. You could also sew over this area twice, because if you have a wider seam or stitch length, this might fray a little bit here. All right, so the other way you can make sure that you have the same measurement is to put this like this. And make sure that your mark is on there, on that line. If everything's right, you cut it out. And I will measure it here. Yep. Now this is a little thicker to sew through, but be very careful that you don't go too far. Hold this up. Yep, looks good. All right, as we have done before, we're going to fold these. Match your seams, okay? You can nest your seams just like this. Put a pin right in that seam. Now I have one seam going one way, one seam going the other. Okay. We're going to do this on all four, the exact same thing. Then we're going to stitch back and forth, and I always go over these stitches more than, or these lines of stitching more than once. I usually go I back tack, go across, back tack, and then I always stitch back and forth a few times. I like them to be reinforced. Maybe it's not needed, but to me it feels like it is. So that's what I'm going to do. And since it's your freestyle bag, you can choose to do that or not. Totally up to you. And like I said, it's probably not necessary. It's just one of those little things that I do. I think we all get into habits of doing certain things a certain way. Not anything wrong with it though. And I'm going to use a small stitch length on this, probably a 1.8 millimeter when I sew this. And again, I nest my seams, one going one way, one going the other. So I'm going to go stitch that using a 1/4 inch seam allowance, 1.8 millimeter stitch length back and forth, and I will meet you back here. Okay, everything is sewn. Now, of course, there are so many ways that a person could do this. You don't have to put the straps on when I did. You could have put them on before you sewed your panels together, and honestly, I've done it both ways. The only reason that I do it the way I do now, for the most part, is sometimes when I put them on first and then pin everything together and sew it, they end up just a little bit off. Because maybe this seam is a little narrower by a bit than this one. Do you see what I'm saying? Either way, it's fine, okay? As long as they're on there. It's the same thing with boxing your corners. You can box the corners before you put it together. No harm, no foul. Either way works. And I didn't used to do this where I left a certain amount over of the strap, but I find for me that I feel better about it, because you'll see when we top stitch this, there's no doubt that it's grabbing onto a good chunk of that. So we have the stitches that we put in to hold it in place, and I went back and forth a few times with those stitches. And then when I sewed around, when I went around the whole thing twice, I also, when I go past it, I go back and then forth, okay? So those are sewn 6 times where the straps are. So I feel pretty confident that they're held on there, you know, really well. The other thing where I back tack a lot is right here. Because you'll notice sometimes on bags, if you don't go back and forth at the seams, you can see the threads a little bit. And it's not a huge deal, but it's something that I notice. So if you use a smaller, tighter stitch and you go back and forth, you're less likely to notice those little things. Okay, so the next thing, whoops, is, if you've been with me a while, you've seen me do this. If you haven't been with me, you're going to wonder, what is she doing? You're going to spread your bag out like this. You're going to take this flat edge and this flat edge and put them together like this. And you're going to pin it. You're going to take it over to the sewing machine. Oops, I guess I should have had my pointer out here. You're going to take it to the sewing machine, and right here, so just past your seam, you're going to come up a little bit, and right here, from here to here, somewhere in there, you're going to stitch back and forth 4 or 5 times. And the reason that we do this is that I don't know how many bags you've ever made, but a lot of times with a homemade bag, when you reach down inside the bag to grab something at the bottom and you pull it up, you'll grab this liner and it comes right up out of the bag. Well, I don't care for that, so this is the way to fix it. Now, when you go to turn it right side out, it makes it just a tiny bit fiddly to do. Okay, so while we're right here, I'm going to show you how to do the other side. Flip it over. The easiest way I can explain this is grab your flat piece and follow the seam, okay? Follow that seam, and it's not going to be straight because we've pinned the other side, but you can still find it. It's right there. Just make sure it's not twisted. See how it's almost a V? Just push that together, just like this, and you're going to do the same thing with this one. Pin it, take it to the machine, and sew back and forth, okay? Just make sure that stays in place. I'm going to pin that again just to make sure. Just like that. And you don't need to go over the whole length. It's just something to hold it in place. All right, I'm going to do that. I'm going to use a 2.0 millimeter stitch length, and I'll be right back. Well, that just took a moment. I'm going to do a close-up and show you this. Right there. See, that's just above the seam, and I went back and forth 4 or 5 times on each side. Okay. I'm going to take off my pin cushion, and we're going to flip this right side out. So find your opening, and don't worry, just work it through there. Like I said, sometimes it can be a little bit on the, you know, like might keep you busy for a minute, but that's okay. And as long as you did your back tacking at the beginning and end of your opening, you should be good. Okay, push that out through there. We're almost done with this. And I've been so excited about this. The name of this bag has to be Jailbird. If you missed it, I had a subscriber, I'm terrible with names, I'll tell you right now. I'm trying to think of who it was, but she said that I just had to call it Jailbird because when I quilted that down, it looked like I put that bird in jail. Okay, I'm going to take my pins out that are holding my straps in place, that we're holding them straight. I just love this bag. I adore this Lorelei Harris fabric. That's the designer who made this fabric. So whimsical and cute. All right. Boy, I have strings everywhere, don't I? Okay, now I'm going to go inside the bag and into the opening, okay? I can see the opening right here. And because that's sewn up and caught in, you don't have as much room to move in there because you can feel where you sewed it. But make sure you poke your corners out. That's what I'm doing right now. You just want to poke your corners out nice. And that's easier to do when your hand is down, right down inside there. Okay. Now, this is what I'm talking about. You can grab that lining, but see, you can't pull it out through, and that makes a quality bag. It's all about the little things, you guys, seriously. That's what makes the difference between a professional and unprofessional look to your bag. And this was another part right here. Remember how I said on the other side to go back and forth? Because a lot of times you'll notice, not just on this type of bag, but any type of bag, that you can see some stitches there. Now, sometimes you can't prevent that, but when you can, if it just takes a few stitches going back and forth, then I say, why not, right? Okay, so now we're going to, I would say pin this, but actually you guys know me. You know I'm going to go press this, okay? I'm going to press it from the top, and I'm going to press it from the inside. And then I'm going to pin it so that everything is held in place. And then I'm going to top stitch. But I'll come back after I've ironed and pinned, and we'll talk about stitch length and such things. Okay, I have pressed the top. I pressed it from the outside and I pressed it from the inside. The other thing I did while I was gone is I took care of my opening, okay, right here. I pressed it and then I sewed it shut. And I did use the sewing machine to make that seam. I used a 1.8 millimeter stitch length. I used to be a stickler and just do it. I mean, I was hardcore. I was going to do that invisible seam, you know, the blind stitch, and I always did them that way. But you know, it really doesn't make a difference. Yes, you see like a little ridge there right now, but you know, when someone is grabbing inside that purse, believe me, that's not what they see. So I made it a little bit easier on myself. Okay, so the only thing we have left to do on this adorable, can I say adorable tote bag, is the top stitching. So this is all pressed, and the only thing I do is kind of work it like this to make sure the fabric is where I want it to be. And I don't use clips. Even if I were a person who used clips, I would use pins here because I'm trying to hold this fabric lining, the lining of the fabric, down into place. And I want to make sure that everything is where it should be. And then I'm going to stitch. Now, there are a few ways you could stitch around this. And as you see, I have stitching from my quilting lines here, okay? And they are a little bit wonky in places because I was doing the flip it open and stitch. So it was straight at the time. It's just, hey, it adds to the beauty, I think, really. I'm very happy with this bag. But either way, I could choose a straight stitch. I could choose a decorative stitch. It really doesn't matter. But the one thing that you have to be mindful of, if you made your bag this way with the magnetic clasp, or even if you didn't, you used Velcro, you can't stitch down too far because you have that clasp, okay? So I'm going to take my ruler and see how far down that is from the top. And yours is probably different. Okay, mine is about 3/4 of an inch. So if I use a 3/8 or a 1/2 inch seam allowance, that's going to grab this. Now remember how I left that piece of strap down in here, because I want to catch it again on its way by, and that way it's secured even more, okay? So I'm going to take this over to the sewing machine. I'm going to use a 3.0 millimeter stitch length, and I'm going to use a 3/8 inch seam allowance, and I'm going to go along here. The one thing that I will do, because I always do, is when I get to one of these straps, when I get about halfway, you know, like the middle way, when I get about there, I always back tack a couple of stitches. And you're going right over top of your stitches. No one will see that, okay? And then I'm going to go here and go back a few, okay? I also do that here on my side seam, okay? And I do that for reinforcement's sake. you can do whatever you want to do. You don't have to. It's just something that I do. Okay, I'm going to take that over, finish that up, and this will be done. And this is the most adorable little bag. It really is. Okay, I'll see you in a few minutes. Look at that. It's all done. I just think this bag is adorable. And it's much smaller than most of my tote bags. I have one here, and this one is rather large. I will agree, compared to this. You may remember this one that I made. You're giving me anxiety. You can see, you know, but this is just so cute. Just so cute. Now this week I had been planning on doing the zipper top tote bag as well, but that's going to run us into way more time than I think is good for one video. So we're going to leave it at that. I have an idea. I almost was going to show you guys for this tote bag, but then I decided not to. But I have what I think is a wonderful idea. I'm going to put it in this tote bag here. This Tula Pink scrap bag. I'm going to use the method that I'm about to show you. Okay, just inside here, okay, in the seam, it doesn't matter which side, but let's just say it was this side, okay? I'm going to take a D-ring, possibly like it would be thicker than this or bigger than this, but a good quality lobster clasp, and I'm going to attach it to a piece of fabric, and I'm going to sew it when I sew that side seam so that it's just sticking out. Wouldn't that be great for clipping our keys and our key fobs? Then the keys aren't falling down inside the bag, right? I think that that is a good idea, and it's something that I'm going to do in our next video. So the next video will be our final video. We're going to take care of the zipper top. So our bag will go together differently than this one because, excuse me, because of our zipper. I stop and I think of you guys, and I'll think, I wonder what so-and-so's bag is like, and you know, and I go on because so many of you, I know in the comments section, you'll say, you know, that you bought your fabric, or, you know, I can tell your excitement, and I just think it's wonderful, and I can't wait to see so many of the bags that you guys are going to share on the Facebook group. And again, if you want to be a member of the Facebook group, it is by invitation only at this point. So if you would like to be invited, you need to email me at mariescrappycreations@yahoo.com. That's with 2 S's. Okay, I'm going to leave this here for now. I will see you next time to finish up our freestyle Scrappy tote bag series. I think it's a lot of fun. Like I said, I apologize that we're not finishing it this week, but I really didn't want to rush through the zipper part. So I think it's best if we take our time doing it and have everything turn out correctly. So thank you so much, so very much for sewing with me today and hanging out with me today. Right here in my sewing room, in my little corner of scrappiness. I hope you're having fun sewing your bag, and I will see you next time right here at Marie's Scrappy Creations. And until then, remember, be kind out there. The world needs more of that. See you next time. Bye-bye.